Hello everyone and welcome to episode 16 of UK League Chat. We had a week off, Tom was a bit poorly, but we're back.
Yes.
Nothing
Bad though.
it's
Nothing
not
bad.
it's not COVID, no,
Uh-uh.
don't need to worry, and even if it was, I don't think we can transmit it over Discord anyway, so I'm alright.
Well, yeah. Thank the Lord.
Now, having a week off from the podcast means we've got extra stuff to talk about. We've had a couple of weeks' games. Some fortunes have changed. We've had, some playoffs locked in, some playoffs locked out. And let's just get started. We'll go from the top down and go sort of team by team. Starting with Excel, probably the quickest one to cover because it's just more or less been more of the same. Other than the one match I'd say against MnM, which was probably the hardest match so far, and honestly they could have, maybe even should have lost points in that as well. So yeah, I think they can't even finish second at this point. I don't think, can they? I think they're 3 games ahead.
Yeah, it's impossible. By far, they are the best team in the UKLC right now. Right, it will be difficult to see them drop a game in the future, even in playoffs. And also, I just think that the outliers, which were essentially Sendo, because I feel like Sendo's always kind of an outlier, and Deadly, they're the ones which have incredibly stepped up as well. Because we all knew how good Taxa, Special, and Kasing obviously was, but it was those two players which have stepped up, I think, this season, and that's what's kept them winning games. Because, like, let's be honest, they've been the best side, and to be fair, even if they were like 10-2. I'd still be like, this side is by far better than a lot of other teams, what we're seeing. But it's because there's been games where other players like Sendo and like Deadly, especially Deadly, has had to step up, and it's done wonders for them. Like every player, I feel like, has performed their best, apart from maybe Taxa, but Taxa's role is to facilitate everybody, and he plays that perfectly.
Yeah. It must be like such a pain in the arse to try and, if you're playing against Excel and you think, what angle could we take to beat them? There's not really a weak link. Every player on that team is in the probably top 2 or 3 in the league, if not the best.
And like Sendo, for example, was someone who, like when Excel, when obviously the UKLC first started, Sendo was always like they've kind of got him because he was like a former player, and but is he good enough to kind of be in a quote unquote academy team? Well, in an academy team, and every season I think he's stepped up. I think he's got a lot better each split, which has been going on, because I think he performed very well in summer last year, but I think this spring performance as well, I think he's been better than what he was in summer.
Really, I thought it's kind of different as well. In summer, I think he had like more kind of pop-off games, but then this year he's just had more of like a job to do. They do just try and let Deadly get as many resources as he can, and yeah, just all of them just playing it perfectly, really.
And it goes to show that when you actually have a stable 5-man roster, it does work.
Yes, now that XL are well away from their 10-man roster.
And I do have to respect XL for doing it, like, because it could have easily been this unbelievable strategy which could have worked, but it didn't. And obviously, it's not like they've done this for like 3-4 years and failed. They did it for one full season. Yeah. And then in the second season, they decided, right, we're going to stick with the 5.
Even by summer, they'd pretty much stopped it as well.
Exactly. And so it worked. But the problem with summer is because you've got certain players who probably didn't want to be in the UKLC or were maybe considering themselves still part of this 10-man roster who could potentially have gone up, that I don't think the synergy was there where everybody knows their role in this team, I think.
It's kind of one of those things, like, it's like the argument people have in football, like man marking versus zonal. And it's like, if you've got the time to spend on it and everyone's invested, the 10-man roster, there's no reason it wouldn't work. But for something to work instantly, you need that synergy to build up quick. Otherwise, you do kind of fall off. And if you are changing the team every week, you're not going to get it. But
I think as well, if you want to like go a little bit further into that, it's like there are certain like teams in any professional sport where you can interchange certain people, and because they facilitate a different role, and that works. However, the core of the team still needs to remain the same. And XL didn't do that. XL were just chopping and changing everybody at one point.
Yeah.
And there was no kind of identity from the team. There's a clear identity. There's a clear primary win condition, and then they also have the quality to do above that. And I think that's what's put them above everybody. I think at this point, there's multiple ways they've won this game. Sometimes it's been sloppy. I think everybody can be honest about that. They've not played perfectly, but when they've always won, and they've found different ways to win.
And then like you said, probably nailed on favourites for playoffs still. That we'll see how it ends up, who they'll be against, but I can't imagine there's anyone that, even at the moment it looks like they even take a game off them, let alone actually put up a fight to take them down. Anyway, let's move on from XL, because they are, in a way, a bit boring because they just win every game. So, let's move on to a team that have been more interested.
I got told off by them last week because I predicted Fnatic, and it's fine. Because I value an entertaining league, I guess.
Exactly.
And also, as I said, I was 4 points behind, so I really need to get some points.
Never mind. Let's go to a team then that did look very good, and they've had a bit of a tougher couple of weeks since we've been on. Is Barrage. So in the 2 weeks that have been played since the last episode, they've had 2 wins and 2 losses. Now the wins were against NVision and Demise. Probably were ones you'd expect, given the rest, the form over the rest of the split. They did lose to MnM, which was a bit of a surprise, and then the final game that was against XL, which is kind of, I suppose, fair enough. But that one against MnM wasn't really expected. It was pretty one-sided as well. I'm looking at it now. It's a 24-minute game. Barrage only even managed 6 kills, and the ones that we've been talking about the last few episodes, how surprised we are, Ericsson and Kevo, they didn't get a kill between them.
Yeah. MnM and particularly Mummus were something else, I think, in that game. And we'll talk a little bit about MnM when we get to them, but they are riding a wave of momentum. But specifically with Barrage, is that I did feel last week that there was a little bit of, and I think naturally this is what happens, and I'm surprised that BT hasn't had this, but kind of all we needed was 2 wins. All they knew is that they needed 2 wins out of 6, and they felt like a team which knew that kind of. Their upcoming games, I believe, as well as Enclave as well. So they probably would have known that they were going to get another win probably there as well if it all did go wrong. So it just didn't feel. It felt like there were other teams which wanted it more. BT wanted it because they wanted to remain undefeated, and MnM wanted it because they still wanted to be in a playoff race. And so sometimes when your mind is kind of looking elsewhere, and I would not be surprised if Barrage are looking at playoffs already. Why wouldn't you? You're cemented no matter what. As long as you kind of don't particularly finish 4th and face BT, because you don't really want that. Whether you finish 2nd or 3rd doesn't matter at this point, because you're going to face each other. I think there's probably a side selection advantage and stuff like that, but majority of the time it's not like a massive issue. So, but overall, Barrage have done brilliantly with a group of players which have been brought together, and these are 5 new players who hadn't played together at all. It reminded me a little bit of Demise last season. Because even though some of those players had played together, but you had Den Foxney and a few others who kind of nobody really knew, but they'd all just performed, and they all were a team together. And Barrage feel like that, where they're kind of like a team together, and it'll be. I kind of worried about Barrage a little bit because I don't know how long some of those players are going to be there, because I actually think individually they're really, really good, especially probably Flezzy and Sybil as well.
Ericsson maybe as well.
Yeah, maybe Ericsson. But
recalled from his loan.
I think those two, because obviously it's a US talent and it's an Oceania talent, so there's probably a lot more eyes on them, I would say. I wouldn't be surprised if Sybil ends up going to a top tier OCL team, or
he could get Academy NA.
It all depends on what happens there. But speaking about it right now, Barrage have done brilliant, and you've got to praise the organization as a whole from a backroom standpoint as well, to identify these players and get the most out of them, because they've got one of the best, I would say, one of the best infrastructures in the UKLC, which isn't probably an academy team because of the resources they've got.
Yeah. And yeah, you mentioned that it is maybe like a bit of a motivation issue these last couple of weeks as well. They don't need the wins as much. They're locked in for playoffs, and especially you talk about that. It's not really players that we would have expected would have been pushing this far. You know, given how much they've, I don't want to say overachieved, but you've kind of gone beyond what people expected. That
I don't think they have overachieved, like you said.
Yeah,
I think it's more the fact that we just didn't, like you said, we didn't expect these players to be good. Like an overachieve, maybe the only person I could say is quote unquote overachieved is Kievo, but is it the fact that he's just never had the opportunity to be at like a team with this? You know, so overachieve for me is someone who's kind of like you've seen for years and then suddenly he's done something. Maybe you can even say like Sendo taking it back to BT might have overachieved these past couple. But I think that's sometimes a bit of a derogatory term to basically say you're good, but you're playing better than what you actually are.
Or that it's not going to last kind of thing as well.
Yeah, but we'll have to see. Maybe next season they might have overachieved, but we can only find out then.
Yeah, I think the sad thing that I'd imagine a few of these players will get poached away as well. I'm not sure we'll get to see that same team keep going and see if they can keep it up. But
I think it all depends on what happens next season as well, because obviously there's a lot of to and fro enough about what's happening next season. We can't really disclose too much, but like there could be a potential where they do keep this roster for another season, and if they do, I really hope they do, because they could be one of the strongest non-academy sides in the entire of the UKLC if they stick together.
Yeah.
And that even includes, I believe that includes Diabolus' roster from the first UKLC season. I think this is comparing them is Barrage looks better than what that Diabolus side did, despite that Diabolus side winning the regular season.
Yeah. And then the one thing we talk about maybe if motivation could have been an issue at all. I doubt that shouldn't have been an issue against Excel. But then that's just, again, like we said with Excel already, they do just like a cut above the rest, so you can't really knock any team for how they play against them, I don't think, other than the Fnatic one where they just got smashed in the first week. But,
that's that one.
Anyway, let's move on to Fnatic, because this is a team that's kind of, we all expected them to be up there with Excel fighting for the first place, and they've not really been there. They haven't necessarily been bad, but it just don't look like kind of how strong they looked last year. We've talked before about sort of pride and bravado coming in, maybe haven't looked as good as what they had before, as maybe Shikari and Prosper and Targamas when they were there. And yeah, they had a bit of a struggle last week. They actually went an 0-2 week last week.
I believe it's the first 0-2 in. I know it's this season. I was going to make like a bold claim that it was overall, but it might genuinely be, because technically the tower format.
Yeah, well, before it was impossible to have an 0-2.
Fnatic's
oh wait, they could have if they were the. Oh no, they couldn't actually. I was going to say if they were the tower champions, they had the rematch thing, but then they'd go back into the tower. No, they couldn't. It was impossible. So it is their first 0-2 in the UKLC.
That is proper stats. Proper
stats. And even the week before, they were against Demise and Phelan, which are kind of games you'd expect them to win. So there's not really too much to be confident in that if you look into playoffs, I don't think, from what we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
I think you've got to worry a little bit for Fnatic here, because they look like they're struggling a little bit, to be quite honest. And I think it's because, and I don't really want to say, I think at the beginning of the season, like MnM was really, really good. Yeah. However, I just don't think he's been as good. And I don't know if that's because of the other parts around him haven't been performing, but there seems to be this, whenever like MnM used to play, there was always this like aura around him, I felt, where kind of like teams felt like, oh, they're playing MnM. But with the likes of like Adept, Special, Ericsson, all like performing. Even players like Chimera and a lot of other mid laners stepping up. And I felt like he's not felt as much as a threat this season. And I don't know if that obviously relates to then play and stuff like that, but I just feel like there's a lot more competition that maybe Fnatic were relying too much on how good MnM was instead of thinking maybe we should try other ways. And I think that's where they've lost it. They've lost it when they've tried something in a game, it's failed, and they've been unable to adapt to that. Every single loss has been that. You take it back to even when they lost to BT the first game, they got absolutely stomped in the early game and couldn't adapt. Maybe the comp was not able to do that, but there was always something else you could do. And then in the second BT Fnatic game, like Fnatic they should have won that game. Like genuinely, I felt like they were the better side, and then suddenly a couple of bad plays didn't go their way, and then BT smartly ended up snowballing that, but Fnatic couldn't find a way to stop the bleeding essentially, and lost that way. And then they lost to NVision. Yeah.
Just going back to that XL one first, you said about MnM. He was obviously a standout. He was MVP, I think, both splits last year, was he? And they often, when he looks good, Fnatic look good. And then against the match against XL, they put him on Ornn. And it's like, obviously Ornn was a strong pick, and it was one that, even like Faker played in mid. But it's like, it's MnM. Just give him something that he's going to pop off on. People don't pop off on Ornn, do they?
Yeah, and I do feel like it might have been because of just kind of what's happened in the mid lane recently. And this is not saying that MnM is still their best player. Like without a doubt, I believe he is still the best player and better than a lot of other mid laners. I would say I would still put him above Special, but when you've got the players around you which clearly aren't working, it seems. And this is to a point where I expected Fnatic to be, essentially BT level. Like I'm not. By saying people could say, "Oh, you're saying they're not performing, but they're 8-4." It's like, yeah, but this is not what we expect. Fnatic they've won all the splits, haven't they? They've won every single split. So you would expect this side to do better. They've replaced 2 players, and I agree with you. I don't think it's been an upgrade at all. If anything, it's been like a side grade, and everybody else has just got better. I don't think Bravado's actually been that. I think Pride's seems to be the bit of a problem, but I hope that they don't just swap everybody out coming into summer. But we will, with the way that academies work, that probably could happen. I just think that if they don't get their grip, they could potentially not be in playoffs at the end of this week, because they have got some difficult games. I believe they're playing Barrage and MnM, and those are 2 sides. Barrage maybe not, but Barrage will want to secure second anyway. And MnM are fighting for a playoff spot still, and the only other team too. So if they don't really prepare for this, there very much is a chance that they could actually. I believe it could go into a playoff.
I think it could go into like a 3-way tie of all of them on 8 and 8.
Exactly. So even though they're on 8 and 4, if they go 8 and 6,
8 and 6. Sorry, yeah. So we'll see. That would be interesting, to say the least.
And it would be very much like what happened with XL, because XL could never find their groove.
Yeah.
And when you felt that there was something which always stopped them. And
it's
XL, funny how the roles have reserved.
Yeah, XL kind of had that. Not really excuse, but that's the thing that people say. Well, the 10-man roster, they were playing for a place in the LEC. They weren't playing for for playing in the UKLC. Obviously, Fnatic, that's not the case. We know they're not really going to get that chance, at least not right now. So you wonder what it is really.
And then there's like a final point, just to kind of be on the side of Fnatic. Like they had these last two weeks are the hardest 2 weeks of them which they had, because they had BT and NVision proved to be one of the better sides in the league, and then they've got Barrage, and then they've got MnM. So they're playing the top 5. They're playing 4 of the top 5, not including themselves. So that's a very difficult week, and so but it's also a week you would have expected a Fnatic roster in the side to have won every game. So it's one of those.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We'll talk about the games next week for Fnatic, but yeah, they've already lost half of those 4, so they've got to step up to make sure they're actually in playoffs. It'd be crazy if Fnatic don't make it. That'd be nuts.
Yeah, I think they still will.
Yeah,
right? I'm not saying they won't, because I just think they're just a good enough side, and it does rely on other factors to occur. But they will not want to be having a rough week anyway, leading up into playoffs. Yeah. Like you just wouldn't want to.
Let's see. Moving on then. In next place right now, because it all could change, but 4th place right now in the playoffs is NVision, and they are finally Academy killers. Yeah, finally what everyone expected.
They're looking a lot better every single week. I think they have very much been better, and they're on a 3 winning streak now. Yeah. So that's going to help. And this side is finally I think gelling properly.
Yeah.
And they understand the roles which they are doing, and it's not even changed that much because Adept is still the core of that team, I think. But it's just the little things that they do around that and how they can get to an Adept carry game, or even in case of, I believe it was Jusu who got man of the match in another game and stuff like that. So they're even playing around him a little bit more. I'm really, really impressed with this team, and they've peaked at the right time, I think, going into a playoff run.
And the funny thing as well, I saw on, I think it was on the UKLC after show, that Prosfair was saying about how... actually, no, it may have been. I think it may have been about Deadly. Actually, I'm not sure. But he was something about how team just let him farm, and they didn't see anyone. No one's actually given her a proper go yet, and so they can't tell how good Deadly actually is. I think because of that, I remember when this Fnatic NVision game was happening, Kasing was in the Twitch chat, joking about it basically, kind of like not flaming, but like I can't remember. He gave us some quote of Prosfair's, and then something about obviously they expected to lose against Fnatic, and then then Fnatic NVision pulled it out and actually beat him. Obviously, they still haven't proven it against Deadly yet, so we'll see if if they reach playoffs, maybe Prosfair can get his redemption there. Because it was something I think he even said when he was on here that you're not really too sure how good he is. They've seen him in solo queue, seen him in scrims, and then his argument was that because the way XL just dominate every game, he just gets to bugger off in the side lane, just farm all match until he's like uber fed. So we'll see. Because like NVision obviously are getting better and better each week. By the time it comes to playoffs, if they do go up against XL, maybe they could be the team to actually give a go against their bot lane.
And that Fnatic win will have helped them so much more than just getting that extra game victory. I think that was kind of what they needed, because like I said, they've been going along saying, despite Barrage being not first but second, basically the entirety of the split essentially, NVision have always said that they are the teams which can take these academy sides down, and they were the first team to do that. And so I wonder if that would just give them confidence going into a playoffs where it is expected that 2 of the sides are going to be academy teams, and thinking, well, if we could beat Fnatic, then why can't we beat XL in that mentality kind of standpoint?
Yeah, just literally for their own confidence, it should be massive. And we'll move on more to their games, what they've got next week. But they've got 2 winnable games. And one of them obviously against MnM that is huge, because that's obviously going for the main rivals for the 4th spot. So that's going to be a massive match. Let's jump to MnM. They've also had a good couple of weeks. They're another side with 3 wins in a row, and one of them against Barrage as well, which is obviously a really good win for them. I think Barrage before that had only lost to XL, hadn't they? I think that's the only other team they've still lost to. Or did they drop one to Fnatic?
I can get it checked.
No, they've lost 3. I'm sure 2 are XL.
Yes, the 2 are XL and 1 is MnM. Yeah. Oh.
So again, for this time for MnM's confidence, obviously it's not one of the academies, but it is second place, who have only lost to XL. So MnM against NVision, that should be a really interesting one now. They should both be on a high, and I'm sure they both expect to win.
Yeah, MnM are definitely the underdogs going into this playoff run. Like they have scratched and clawed, I think, and they've not made it easy for themselves. They really haven't. There have been some games, and you're 6-6 here, but so there's been some games where they've been, I think, brilliant. Like the Barrage game, for example. As much as we could say maybe the mentality wasn't there for Barrage to fully commit, MnM still had to win that game.
Yeah.
Like there have been many teams which might have not prepared as much throughout the entirety of the season, but still won a game.
Yeah.
MnM still had to beat that side, and that's still credit to them as well. And like you said, you don't win 3 in a row, despite I believe it's Enclave was the other one, and Phelan, yeah. So it's like, so even though like the teams haven't been the best that they've got against, it is still confidence, and it's
the one before, the game before was the XL where they almost beat him as well.
Yes, exactly.
So even just for that should be enough confidence just to know they can put a fight up against the top team.
And so it's very interesting because I think like a lot of people were very much like BT, Barrage, Fnatic, NVision. I think everybody kind of said that when it reached the halfway point. Yeah. People are like, it's those 4 teams. But then MnM have gone on this run, like you said, like they were 3-6 before this, and now are 6-6. Like this is a brilliant run from them. Yeah. In the end, despite who it's against, and you do just think. All it takes for them essentially is one game, and they could be in playoffs.
Yeah.
And Pad has probably done this magnificent thing yet again.
Well, I was having a look. I was trying to look at their some of their picks over those weeks. Well, the last couple of weeks where they've been a bit. They've been getting these wins. Soft has played Rek'Sai for 5 games in a row, and he's won 4 of them. So, and he's been playing really well. And I'm not saying he's like a one trick or anything, but you'd think that the last couple of weeks, or these last 2 matches, that's surely going to be banned at least once, probably twice, given how well he's playing. So that could be maybe one point of weakness. But then at the same time, we talk about Mummus. I think we might have mentioned that he's one of these kind of really good carry players. We weren't too sure if it is going into more of a tank meta, will he be as impactful? I think it was the game against XL. Obviously, they did lose it, but he was playing the Zac, which obviously is not a carry player, and he still played well. So, he's kind of given some view that he might be able to play those tanks if it does start veering towards that. Because, for a top laner, I think it's really rare as well for someone to be able to do both. Someone's either a good frontliner usually, or they need the resources to carry, like we kind of thought Mummus might be. So that's kind of one thing going for him. But it does veer towards that side. It might even be better for them. There might be, maybe other sides might not fit so well in the tank meta. We don't know. So that's kind of the picks and bans could go either way for them, I think.
And I just think as well is that we do have to praise a couple of players in the squad. Let's be honest, is that like everybody rated Chimera as the worst mid laner in the league. I think from a lot of people's tier list. On the flip side, the best British mid laner, because but it's one of the. It's just the way that the world works with certain positions being better than other. However, while he's not been to the level of what I think a lot of other mid laners have been this season, like he's definitely held his own.
Yeah.
And you can't be in a 5th place team potentially going into playoffs when we've already praised how many good mid laners there are, and not say that he's actually played his part in that side as well. And I think he does deserve it. And Sof as well. Sof has always been known, I think, as sometimes a bit of a coin flip player. He could be very good and very aggressive, but there has been games where he's played passive, and it's been kind of the story of like MnM, as you were saying with Mummus. Like a lot of these players are known as being like quite hyper aggressive, at least the ones which we're familiar with, and then you've got kind of a Chew, but I think they've all kind of like swapped a little bit and tried to rotate their play and play a little bit different, and that's a sign of a good side who synergizes well.
Yeah, when it gets to playoffs, when you're talking best of 3s, best of 5s, you can't have one game plan and only play one way. If you want to get through playoffs, then they've got to be adaptable, and it looks like they are. So that's if they do reach it, that's one thing going for them, I think.
And because of it's weird with MnM because you, as an organization, you look at them and you think they probably should be getting top 4. and I think that they will be wanting top 4 as well, because they are one of the bigger sides in terms of a fan base in the UKLC. I believe that they are the biggest side, bar obviously Fnatic and XL in terms of popularity. Maybe because of other games like CS:GO and stuff like that, which they play, but and Rainbow Six as well. I think they're quite heavy on that. I'm not too big into the Rainbow Six scene, but I think that they should hold their head up high, whether they finish 5th or 4th this season, because it's proven to be a very difficult season, and the quality has been a lot better than what it has been, I think, than in both 2019 splits as well.
Definitely. Well, because the 2019, I think in spring you had Diabolus as like the one team kind of pushing up against the other two, against Fnatic and XL. And then in summer it was literally no one. It was just XL, Fnatic, and then everyone else. Yeah, this year you've got the kind of a top 5. You know, a few stragglers at the bottom, and I think all credit to MnM for breaking away from them, because they were in amongst those kind of stragglers until the last couple of weeks.
I believe that they were 2 and 4 alongside Demise and Phelan, and so that shows how both teams were 2 and 4 at this point, literally this point halfway through, and one team has then gone on to win 4 games and lost 2, and then one's obviously lost 1, won 1, lost 5. Well, both of them have. So it kind of shows the difference between the two sides, despite MnM's bad start. Like they were joint second bottom.
And it is just the pad special again, just go on a mad run at the end, and maybe what did they finish for? 3rd or 2nd? I don't remember.
I believe it was 3rd. I think they were.
Well, there you go. They'll be 3rd this year. Or maybe 3rd. It'll be regular season, and then playoffs might be different. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. They'll be the team to beat XL. That'll be it.
Definitely. And then going down, then now we get to the stragglers. I think. Let's start with Demise. To me, they kind of look like a team without ideas now. Obviously, now they're out of playoffs, I think, so it doesn't really matter. But when it was those last kind of couple of weeks, it kind of looked like, okay, we're not getting the wins we need. Kerberos split push every game, and we'll see if it gets us a win. And that's what it kind of felt like they were trying to play. The last week they changed it up a bit. He was playing, I think, like Darius and Cassiopeia. So they've obviously, they're not kind of trying to get cheap wins anymore, because they can't get in playoffs anyway. So I guess now they're open to just experiment. But
I think that, like, for me personally, I think that they didn't think they had a strong enough side to compete when you basically sub, and was it Monkeys out? What was it, week 3 or week 4 or something like that? When you're already making changes, and then you've got Ramstar and Dragdar, playing this unorthodox bot lane, I think you're kind of saying that maybe we made some mistakes along the way. Obviously, the only person really who you have to praise is Kerberos. Like, there have been the games which they have won, he has been heavily influential, and in even the games where they could have won, he's been heavily influential. You look at the BT game, for example; it's another one where, despite Demise had no chance of winning that game, but all Kerberos kept doing was just delaying it and kept delaying it, and he was the only one really properly doing anything in that game. And you kind of felt he felt like that, that anime hero who keeps getting beaten down but keeps getting up, and you just start to feel like sorry for him. Unfortunately though, they didn't win. They just lost.
They won. They beat Enclave, but they probably shouldn't have. We'll get onto Enclave in a minute, but that was sad watching that. Like, I predicted Enclave as well, and I was thinking, yes, they're going to do it. I predicted them, like, that's like the 3rd time I've gone for them, and I was saying, okay, this is the time they're going to do it, and then
but I think that next season, I think we're going to see this team kind of. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 5 new players. And the only one I could imagine them keep is Kerberos and maybe Rufchen, because I actually think that I can't say it. I think it's Rufchen.
I think.
He's actually performed pretty well. I was very skeptical about the Monkeys dropping, but clearly there just wasn't something right there, and maybe Monkeys needed a break as well. I think we've already discussed this.
Well, he's had a tough couple of splits probably.
So I think he just needed that, but I think Rolchan's actually performed pretty well, and I don't think Zor's been that bad as well. I just don't think he's been. I think a little bit kind of like he's been outclassed.
Yeah, well, we just said how many good mid laners there are this year.
Yeah,
and it's just not on that level, I don't think.
And then I completely disagree with Rabstar Dragda. I'm terrible at League of Legends, but I just completely they have their reasons for it, but I completely.
It was residency reasons, I think, wasn't it? Well, they changed it for the last week or two, did they? With the guy Zyko. To be fair, they looked a bit better now that Dragstar, I can't even say it now. Now that Dragdar is back on ADC, they had, I think it was the game against Enclave. Let me just double check. He was, Ophelius. He was 9-2, and that was a game that they were losing for a lot of it as well. Yeah. So at least now they're looking a bit better, but then it's just kind of too late now, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, there was just changes which just weren't good in the end, and I do think, I wonder if just halfway through this split they all thought, right, let's try to see what we can do next season. Like, I can imagine them keeping Rolchen just because why would you put him in with not the reason to then kind of keep him at the end.
It might even be the fact that maybe once they were quite far from playoffs but still had a chance. Obviously there's no relegations this split, so they kind of maybe just thought, let's just try anything. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it's not the end of the world, I guess.
However, for a team, I do have to give them this, for a team which is 3-9, I have been thoroughly entertained with how Demise have been. Like, if you're gonna be a 3-9 team, you might as well make a whole host of roster changes and and have games where Kerberos feels like he's one of the best players in the league, yet still loses, or games where you literally should not have won and then win right at the end with what happened at Enclave. Like, you have to give them credit; they've had some very entertaining games. So at least they've not been one of those teams where you just forget. At least there's that. Speaking of forget,
well,
sorry.
We're on to the last two then. Phelan, I think they're on the same score as they're on the same level as Demise, so I guess kind of joint at the moment. I did see the last 2 weeks they've had a win against Enclave, which I guess for most games has been pretty much a free win anyway. And then they had, to be fair, they had a pretty tough run. Fnatic, NVision, MnM, and this one thing I wanted to ask you. So I saw on Twitter, I think Ferndog said that the last week, I think it was, that they just, obviously they were out of playoffs by that point, and he was saying they were just trying to have some fun with the picks. I guess just put them on comfort stuff, or I don't know, just try and just play random stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, just because at the point you're not going to finish last.
Yeah, but one argument I've seen, I saw it when I think it was in the LEC, like points last year where like G2 would already be first and they would just troll and lose. But is that actually fair? Like, because you look at the teams they lost to, I guess it's kind of lucky that they lost to 3 teams all going for the same spot. But let's imagine that they'd played well against NVision and beat them, and then trolled against MnM. That actually has big implications. So I don't know. I kind of want to get your thoughts. Do you think it's something that should be, should they be sort of told maybe don't do that again?
So the way that I would look at it is, I think it went completely off the schedule, and I feel like sometimes saying that you're going to troll can be an excuse of,
true, yeah.
Oh well, we're going to lose these games anyway, so we might as well play a bit of fun picks and lose it. I can imagine if they were playing Demise Enclave this week, like last week, I doubt they would have trolled, because I don't think they'd want to be the team to give Enclave a loss, and they'd still probably want to finish above Demise, who are on an equal level to them. I think it's because of the opposition they'd played where it became an issue. The only one which I could see is maybe the likes of MnM, because they were seen as not the top 4 until that game, essentially, until people realised, oh wait, they really can actually go for this playoff run. But because they were playing other teams, I don't think it mattered too much. It'd be the same way, I think, if G2 were playing like Schalke when they're like 0 and 13, they probably wouldn't want to be the side to lose to them. So they would probably still play. And if they were playing Fnatic, it'd be a very similar situation.
Yeah.
I just think it depends on who they were playing. And I think they looked at that and kind of, let's be honest, they probably weren't going to win them anyway, even if they were trying. If maybe the MnM game, but I couldn't see them winning them other games.
Yeah.
Overall, I haven't felt any emotion towards Phelan this season. And that sounds really bad.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's been nothing which I've been like, wow, this side is something special. And the issue which I have is it felt like they just weren't up to that level. And I know this sounds really bad, but even like with Enclave, at least I can feel that Enclave are like really trying some games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I do feel like Phelan sometimes have just kind of been at the paces and kind of within 2 weeks realized, oh, okay, here's the competition which we're at. We're probably, going to be, 6th, 7th, maybe 5th, but we're not going to get top 4. And we're just going to go like that. I just don't see any of these players which have stood out to me as well. Even Beartree, who I really was expecting to have this performance. And I think when you see other top laners as well, just like with mid lane, like you've seen Kerberos and Mummus, who aren't in these top sides, but these pull off these great performances. Beartree's then just looked like, someone who's there. And I felt that that's been the issue with all these players. None of them have been necessarily bad. They've just none of them have had that standout performance, I feel.
Yeah. And even you say like with Beartree that we kind of expect him to probably be the best player. And I was looking at some stats earlier, and he's even in terms of top laners, I think he has like the worst CS per minute, like second or third worst KDA. So he's unfortunately hasn't been that level that we saw last year. And I guess the only kind of thing you can say in his favour is that the top lane is obviously pretty stacked this year. There's no you look at every team, there's no weak top laner. I'd say there's probably 1 or 2 weaker players in sort of every other position. But in terms of top, I don't think there's even a single one, except for when Enclave played only Angel mid, jungle for 1 game.
Yeah, well, that was something.
But yeah, other than that, it's kind of he had strong competition, but obviously hasn't been able to play that level that we saw last year, unfortunately.
But I do if I have to give them a bit, and I don't like excuses sometimes, but from what I've been listening, what people have told me is that essentially Phelan had been struggling to kind of get the team together and get the team to practice, because you've got to think a lot of these sides haven't had aren't paid to a full-time level where the academy sides are, and there are some ERL sides which are as well. So apparently they've been struggling to get together, but then I would also say there's also a fault where has the backroom staff got to take a bit of blame for that as well, because when you're in a competitive league, I think it all depends on how the org sees the league this season. Did they see it as, oh, this is a rushed league, so we're just going to create a rushed team and see what happens? Or are they going to say, right, this is the one where we commit a lot of resources into it? For example, like Barrage, and for example, even NVision at a point, they committed resources to it, or at least Prosper committed resources to NVision. And so you've got to, there are 2 ways to look at it. But it did just feel like maybe they got these players, they wanted them to work a certain way, and just through other issues which had happened, it's not been able to be like that.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's go on to Enclave then. And how the hell have they not won? Come on, guys! I keep predicting for you to win. I'm hopeful, but I just don't get repaid my faith. And that Demise game, I really thought it was going to be the one, and I was buzzing off that. I was like halfway through the match, I said, yes, I'm going to rub it in Tom's face. But now,
that Demise game just was, it was heartbreaking. Because you know what, I do have to say this, genuinely, I feel like if they had played that game halfway through the split, and they had played that way, they would not be in a position where they are now. I would say that they could have been similar to what Phelan and Demise would be.
I think they'd be better,
well.
I think.
Yeah, they played well. It's just that they crumbled. Like I couldn't even think of. They just lost and then kept losing a little bit more, and then suddenly they've lost the game. And you're like, it felt like all that work they'd done. I do feel sorry for Enclave. 0-12, and let's be honest, they're probably going to be 0-14.
Yeah, they've got a tough final week.
And it's interesting to see a league where we've got what could potentially be a 14-0 and an 0-14 in the same split, which is, I don't know if that's a testament to how weird the league is essentially, but you've got this kind of chunk in the middle, and then you've got BT and Enclave. And even Enclave, I respect this as well. And I think the players understand that maybe there was just something wrong, not individually, but with the team as a whole. But even the organization is having a joke with it now, and I really, really like that, because you know what? Why not market yourself as that for this split? Because at the end of the day, it's going to garner you more fans. I mean, blooming Roccat did it for years when it was the EULCS. Like Roccat were always just known as this bad side, and so they leaned into that, and because of that, they actually got more followers and then got a bit more momentum to it. So why not? And like I said, it's one split. You never know what might happen in the future, and I think Enclave give us some good entertainment at least, and I cannot wait for them to be. Imagine if they're the team to beat XL. Just imagine that, because I feel like it's written, it's in the script. Yeah, it's just in the script. You can see it.
And then we'll have a 13-1 and a 1-13.
and then when nobody when you basically tell people, oh yeah, look at the UK scene, and they'll be like, oh, that looks pretty top heavy and bottom heavy, and you'll be like, well, look who the one loss is to, and then they'll be like, what?
You can't help but try to laugh, because the sad thing is, I think they really do look so much better. Like the changes they made, I think were really good, but it's just obviously been too little, too late, I guess. Yeah. And I don't remember if it was James or Jeff when we had our Barrage episode. One of them mentioned that Wyzek they'd maybe heard might be a bit of an easily tiltable player, but despite that, even I kind of thought, even when they've been losing since he's still been playing really well. So even if he does tilt a bit, it doesn't seem to affect him.
And then that obviously for himself.
Yeah, and then he had that tweet after they lost of just 140 characters of laughs, I think. But to be fair, like I say, the other games, it doesn't look to have actually affected him, the fact they've been losing. So he might still turn up against XL. And if they have got a chance to be that team, then they'll need to, because he's definitely been a standout since he's come.
You know what? They're gonna try, right? They have to try, because at the end of the day, you have nothing. You've had nothing to play for this entire split.
They got nothing to lose, have they?
Yeah. So just I hope they have just fully prepped. Forget about the other game. Even though I believe is it NVision?
No, Barrage, I think.
Barrage. Forget about the Barrage game. Just focus on BT. Just be that one side. Do it. That's all you need.
Just try and
seasons of success. You've done more than what Demise and Phelan could do.
What's his name? Bielsa, that Leeds manager. Sneak into Twickenham. See what they get a sneak at their scrims. Take some videos and do some dodgy stuff and get that win.
You know what? I think we should give them 4 points if they can beat.
Well, so
for me, they're like 6th place if they can beat XL.
Oh god! I think if they keep only Angel and Wyzek and at least build on that in summer, they're definitely not going to be one of those kind of bottom teams, because both of those have, I think, played really well. But,
and you know what? It's a bit different than what happened with Demise. They actually, I believe, have made changes which I think have enhanced their team, and it shows that it's a smart org, and it's cruel, really. But Cleanser wasn't good enough, unfortunately, And sometimes, and you never know, maybe after some more solo queue, because obviously it was a rookie, and then maybe have some more solo queue, and this experience might make him a better player in the end of it. Not every player hits it off the first time they come in, but they've just looked a lot better, and obviously they replaced Cleanser for Wyzek, and I think they've been just a better team overall, and only Angel has looked, decent at points.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see then.
So,
oh, is that a hint at your predictions, Tom?
no. I'm not doing that. I genuinely, if we talk about predictions a little bit, I was like, yeah, Fnatic are going to beat XL, and then what will happen is Fnatic will get cocky and then lose to NVision. So that was my thinking behind that. What actually happened was Fnatic actually played, I think, a competitive game against XL. So that made me then think, well, they've just played a really competitive game and lost. So I'm like, so there's no way they're losing to Nvision. Luckily, that did happen. So I was like, phew. But if I just didn't predict 2 upsets, it would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, let's go on to the predictions for this week then. So there's still some big games. Obviously, playoffs are locked in. So even though it's the last week, usually you get, at this point, you do get teams where they can't really move and it doesn't really matter. But most games, have something to play for. Even this first one. So we've got Demise against Phelan, both teams that are out of playoffs. But then you'd think, this is their chance to at least sort of get daylight between each other. They're joint with 2, or is it 2 or 3 wins at the moment? With 3.
3 wins each, yeah.
So, even this one, each team is going to want to prove that they're better than the other one. I've gone for Phelan.
Okay.
Because I think Demise kind of have, to me, look like they kind of run out of ideas, and we're just. If the Kerberos has one of his mad games again, you never know. But then at the same time, those games are when they've looked closest to actually getting more wins. So I'd imagine Phelan should be prepared for that. You should expect Demise are going to just leave it to Kerberos and just go for the flip.
I think this is one of the toughest games to predict.
It's a hard one, yeah.
Because you don't know what the mindset is of both of those sides, both of these sides coming in. It could be 2 ways. It could be one's wanting to get the victory and try and propel as much as they can, and the other one's just like, I can't be bothered. I'm gonna go for. Right. So my choices are: do I go for the team which I think doesn't have any star performers this season, or do I go for the team which doesn't have 5 players playing 5 positions which they're normally used to?
I think that second point is quite important in League of Legends.
Yeah, a little bit. But they've had a couple of weeks now. There's been a few changes. Demise. Like, I was gonna flip a coin. I'll go Demise. All right. Purely because I have a feeling that they might. I have a feeling that they might just push it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And Phelan have got BT, so they might already be preparing for that. Maybe.
Yeah. True. Talk of XL then. That's the next game. XL Enclave. Go on to if you go for XL and they win, we'll give you 5 points.
No.
No, yeah, I've gone for XL. I'd like to still have as much faith in Enclave as I did, but even the faith I had wouldn't have predicted against XL. I don't think.
Right. I got told off by XL last week. So the temptation.
Tom, I've already written down XL for you, Tom. Just
right,
come on, don't do it.
Right, just think of the narrative, yeah. So I again, NVision Fnatic. There was the narrative, MnM's miraculous run. There's a narrative.
And the Enclave's narrative is 0-14, and XL's is 14-0. That's the narrative.
Well, the narrative is these 2 Goliaths, or David and Goliath, and David wins. David always wins. So,
Tom, we know from the predictions that David doesn't always win.
No, that's true. Right, I'm gonna go Enclave.
No,
I'm not. No, BT. Right, I just think I've got playoffs. I need to preserve it. Right, BT. Yeah.
All right. Good choice, I think.
Right, yeah, my heart was like Enclave, do it, but no.
You had the devil on your shoulder. All right. Game 3 then on day 1 is Fnatic against Barrage. Could be a close one. Fnatic. Actually, they do really need to win to make sure they're in playoffs. We've spoken about Barrage might have taken their foot off the gas a bit because they know they're guaranteed, and I think are they even guaranteed? Oh well, they're not guaranteed top 2. They, I think if NVision, hold on, if NVision win both of their games, yeah, then they could potentially finish 4th and then obviously go into a different part of the playoffs and would go against Excel, which I doubt they want.
Yeah. I think there's something wrong with my camera.
Yeah, I think it's showing like a reconnecting thing.
So yeah, let me just sort the camera out for a second. Right. Apologies. Right. Oh, is it better?
You're back.
Okay, right, there we go. Right. So Fnatic, yeah, they're gonna lose to Barrage, and here's why.
Whoa.
Because Barrage are the best team in the league, according to me, and I am never, ever, ever going to vote against them again until they play BT in playoffs.
You just said Fnatic. You said you were going to vote for Fnatic.
No, I said Barrage are going to beat Fnatic.
Oh right, okay.
I think Fnatic are get. I think I said Fnatic are going to get beaten by.
Oh right, okay.
So, yeah, Barrage. Yeah,
well, you just know that if you bet against them, you know they win.
Well, exactly. So this is the thing, yeah. So I've got to look at it this way, yeah. If I vote for Fnatic, yeah, then Barrage will get angry at me at social media. Yeah. Well, Fnatic don't care. So
yeah, they're just too big. Yeah. All right. I've gone for Barrage as well. I think it's a safer pick right now, especially Fnatic. We talked about have had their issues, but again, I think it could go either way. Barrage might have taken the foot off a bit, but then, yeah, there's still playoff implications for everyone that's at the top. So there shouldn't really be that excuse, I don't think, for anybody this last week. Barrage might have had it a bit last week because they kind of thought, oh well, we got in already. But then, by the time it's getting to the end and they're not guaranteed second,
yeah,
they hopefully they'll kick.
And this is a team that they'll want to beat, and this is a team that could potentially face in playoffs as well. Like, well, they probably will face in playoffs if it goes the way it's going. But yeah, Barrage, yeah.
Then the last game, MnM against NVision. Another one with huge implications. Both of these sides are obviously 4th and 5th, only a game between them. If MnM win this, then it puts them level, and then it means it all goes down to the final day.
Yes.
However, I've gone for MnM. Okay, the pad, magnificent run at the end of the year is coming to an end. Because
so you're going for NVision.
NVision, did I not say that?
Yeah, you said MnM.
Oh, sorry. No, I meant NVision. I'm going for NVision. All right, so they've been looking better, like we said, like week on week. Yeah. That win against Fnatic as well. They're finally in their head. They're going to be thinking, right, we're where we need to be now. This is it. Let's crack on. Let's just secure playoffs for the starters. That's what they got to do. I wouldn't be that surprised again if it was MnM. Yeah. Given Pad's history, maybe that's a smart team to go for. But for me, I've got more confidence in NVision at the moment.
I completely agree with you, but I'm going to go MnM because I actually think that MnM could I think MnM could potentially finish in the playoffs, and I think the scheduling of this actually helps quite a lot. If it goes the way that we think it's going and Barrage beat Fnatic Rising, then MnM really know that they have got not just a shot of going above NVision, but a shot of going above Fnatic Rising. And so you've got to look at that, I think. And they will be watching the game literally before that, I can imagine, anyway.
Would NVision think the same thing?
I think NVision could say the same thing, but I think that MnM have looked very, very consistent, but haven't had that standout performance yet, I think, this season. And I always feel that one team gets it. Just where the draft is perfect and the game is perfect. I feel like every team gets that, and I think that MnM will have that opportunity to, and I can see. You know what? I'm so excited to see Mumus and Shikari face each other again as well. I think it's so. But then I even look at like the fact of seeing Soft come up against Nolte as well. I like those two together as well, and just to kind of see, like Adept is, if it probably wasn't for special, there is a very high chance that Adept could have got best mid laner in the league with the way he's performed. And that's no knock on Ericsson, but where the Adept has been in that NVision squad is really good. And so it'd be interesting to see how Chimera goes up against this guy as well, considering, again, how people have viewed him. And there's only one game between the two.
Yeah.
So all it takes, really, in my opinion, then is Chimera and a couple other players for MnM to actually step up. And this could be a very, very different game for NVision. Very interesting. I think, again, it is one of those games which you could see go both ways.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go MnM purely because I can just... There's it always happens in League of Legends. There's always a good final day. I think I don't think there's been many days where we've been like, oh, this is confirmed. And I think by having MnM lose, I think that does confirm the top four. And I don't really want that to happen.
All right. Well, we'll see. Talking about the final day then. It starts off with NVision against Demise. Now, for me, actually, I think the final day is a lot more straightforward.
Do you think?
I think it is. NVision Demise, it's got to be NVision. We've been talking about how how Demise have kind of been gradually sort of just even sort of maybe downgrading a bit. They've maybe not got full effort there anymore. And if we talk about relying on Kerberos, Shikari is not the type of player that concedes his lane like that. He's probably one of the safer top laners, or one of the better top laners that playing safe, should I say. And yeah, I don't see that happening against NVision, and I don't really see Demise winning any other way. So yeah, for me, I think it's quite clear NVision on this one.
I think this is very simple. I do think it's NVision as well. I think that there's a bot lane difference as well. I don't think you even look at the top lane. You've looked at it of how NVision can nullify Demise. I just think that Prosper and Yusa is a very good bot lane as well, and they will potentially, I feel like apart from top lane, there's a bit of a skill gap between everybody, and that's the main reason why I would say maybe Roshan and Nolte actually quite simple, similar. But you look at that mid lane, I think you'd have to give it to Adept. You look at that bot lane, you'd have to give it to Prosper and Yusa, just where they've been playing this split. And then you could potentially give Kerberos the advantage. However, I don't think you can give any top laner the advantage against Shikari. Not because maybe sometimes Shikari is the better and more mechanical player, but because he has this ability, like you said, to nullify the carry if it's a top laner. And it's a very, very good ability to have. The ability to maybe not always perform at your best, but to make your opponent perform worse is such a good skill in League of Legends, and you don't see it that often. So yeah, it has to be NVision for me.
Same. Then the next game we have MnM against Fnatic. I think this is probably the closest game of the week of the day.
I'm going to go for MnM here, and I genuinely feel like we are looking at a three-way tie. Because if we go off our predictions, Fnatic have lost 3 in a row. Yeah, so if they can lose 3 in a row, then what's said that they can't lose 4 in a row?
True.
And at the end of the day, we've seen academy teams in the past not perform and underperform. XL did it for the last 2 seasons. So I'm gonna go for MnM, and I just think that there is some great coaching involved, which could go really far as well.
The way I see it is, if Fnatic do lose to Barrage day 1, that we both are expecting, that should be a big wake up call for them, I think. But by that point, if they lose to Barrage, and especially if MnM beat NVision, then Fnatic have a real chance to actually drop out of playoffs, and I think that will give them a bit of a shock. Especially, so yeah, if I think NVision will beat MnM, but especially, like I say, if MnM do beat NVision, I think there's no way Fnatic lose to MnM, because they'll know they've got to sort it out. They've got to step it up, and they'll pull out the big guns. Magi Felix won't play Ornn, and he'll go 15-0, and they'll win the game.
Yeah. Very fair. Yeah, I can't deny that. So, next
but
game.
You need points, so you
Yeah.
know.
No, I don't think this is a points thing. I think this is very much an MnM can do this.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to message each other as well if there is a quick playoff, so we can get some tiebreaker predictions.
Last
as well.
minute.
Get those extra points, you know.
Yeah, that would be great though. I'd love, as you know, like sports fans or esports fans, you always want to see the underdogs beat the bigger teams, and if there's any chance Fnatic are out of playoffs, it would just be nuts. Like not to say like I want it to happen. We want our strongest teams at EU Masters, everything in that that side of things, but it would also be pretty funny if it didn't.
Got
if
to
they
have
didn't
the
get
entertainment as well. Yeah.
Then third match of day 2 is Phelan against XL. I think this is the last two. I think are pretty straightforward predictions, to be honest. XL are going to beat Phelan, and Barrage are going to beat Enclave.
I genuinely don't have much more to say about it. Yeah. No, yeah.
Unless maybe Enclave they lose to XL, and then it's their last chance. That's the only chance they get to get a win, and then they'll beat Barrage.
I know it works. The narrative only works if they beat XL.
Okay.
Like if Barrage lose to Enclave, then despite it being last game and everything's already confirmed, I'd be worried for them in playoffs. I actually would.
From one game.
Because it shows that they're not prepared. Like they wouldn't have prepared properly. And while you could say that then you've prepared properly for other teams, if they then say, for example, do face an MnM, are they going to take that less lightly than what it would have been if they faced the Fnatic or an XL?
Yeah, and it would. I guess it would show that they had actually maybe got a bit overconfident, like we thought. Could have been why they've dropped a couple of games recently. And
it also makes it worry because then that means that they've gone. Was it 1-on-1? 1-1-1-1-1-1, but all 3 weeks then at that point, which is quite bad, for a team which is consistently second. Yeah. You'd hope that they go 2-0 this week, and they'd want to go 2-0.
Let's see. And I guess that's the end of the predictions. I guess that pretty much wraps up the episode. We have got next week. We should be back with guests from then on again, and hopefully neither of us get the coronavirus. We don't have any more weeks off.
Yeah, so, we can isolate ourselves anyway.
Exactly. So I think we can both work from home. I think if need to. So hopefully we'll be all right. In that case, then anyone listening, please do all stay safe out there as well. Don't want any of our listeners. We need the viewers. So if one of you gets sick and stops watching, that's not good. So everyone's out isolate if you need to. And yeah, for anyone watching, if you're watching on YouTube, as always, you can subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, you can follow. You can follow both us on Twitter. You see that on the screen, and you can follow NineTeeSix on Twitter as well. NineTeeSix. Okay, cheers. Thanks for listening.